We've all been there. You're in the grocery store and there's a plant you cannot resist, and then you take her home and realize she's a little worse for wear. Here's how I rehabbed my grocery store Pilea. First things first, we assessed the damages. This cutie was super dry on top but had tons of root rot. It basically started falling away as soon as I took it out of the pot. So I gently removed all the yucky soil and dead roots and some of the babies to propagate until I had a nice healthy root ball to repot. I kept her in the same terracotta pot, but with nice fresh soil. Got her situated at the height that I wanted, filled it in to cover the roots, and then I gave the chop to some of the leaves who were not doing too hot. Lastly, I found her a spot with some beautiful indirect light and propagated the babies.
If you have a pothos and it's looking beat up from the feet up and you want to make it fuller, there's two things that you can do. Option number one is going to be kind of a long process, but you would take your plant, look for these little bumps, and cut diagonally below it, like this. You can then propagate it in water or directly into soil. Then when the roots grow back, you can just plant them and your plant will grow fuller. And as time goes on, it'll eventually start to look like this. And for option number two, you're gonna need some bobby pins. So I don't know what the hell is going on with my plant. It's disconnected in so many ways, so this is gonna be the best option. You're gonna find your nodes. What you wanna do is basically plant the nodes. Make sure your plant is positioned where you want it. Secure the bobby pin between the two nodes and just plant it. Push that bobby pin all the way down into the soil. Roots will then grow from the nodes and start to push out new growth. And now that we've basically made a toupee for our plant, she's looking a lot fuller.
Time to take care of my Pilea. Just look at those roots. So this plant has shot off two little baby plants that I'm going to be taking off. I'm trying to remove as much of the dirt as I can, and I'm just kind of pulling until I get to a good spot where I want to cut. I'm cutting with clean scissors, and I'm making sure that there are plenty of roots for the new plant to establish itself with. This is the best part about this plant, is that they put off these babies all the time, so they're so easy to propagate and share. Here they are. These have both popped up within like the last week. Since they're so small, I'm going to put them into a sphagnum moss container, so I'm basically just chucking them into bed right now. I make sure all the roots are covered and I put a lid on and put it by a window. Now I'm repotting the mama plant using the De La Tank soil mix. This is my favorite soil mix by Becca De La Plants. Then I tied it to this metal straw to use as a stake, just using what I got. Now she's super happy and just looking great in her spot.
Hi friends, today we are talking about the care of Miss Pilea Peperomioides. That's Peperomioides. These are often advertised as easy care plants, but we often go wrong in a few areas. That is lighting and knowing when to water it. After trial and error, I finally have this dude figured out. As you can probably see on some of these leaves, they are a little bit burnt on the edges and they were cupping upwards, meaning that she was getting too much light. Then I move her and she wasn't burning anymore, but her new growth was starting to look a little bit funky and it's now cupping downwards, meaning she was not getting enough light. So you can see how wrinkled they are compared to the more mature leaves. You can also visibly see that the soil I have her in is extremely chunky. It is really well draining. I actually let it dry out completely and I don't water until the leaves are feeling really thin. This guy is just about ready for some water. I have some babies from that plant in this microleca that I propagated in a previous video and they are actually doing fabulous. I mean, look at those roots. Are you kidding me? I do prefer propagating them in water first before moving them to anything else. Fun fact, I sleep with this Pilea pillow every night. Also, there's only 2 days left to get this merch and support Earth Justice. The link is in my bio. Cheers!
About 4 months ago, I potted up these Scindapsus cuttings and showed you how to make thicker plants by using bobby pins. I wrapped the somewhat leggy vines around the surface of the dirt and then bobby pinned the nodes into the soil. After this, I buried the vines and nodes in just a little bit of the soil to encourage some root growth. 4 months later, we have a much thicker plant, and as you can see, it has grown a little bit leggy, so I'm going to go ahead and bobby pin a little bit more of it today and give it a good watering while I'm at it. And it's looking like this plant will probably be needing a repot in the next few months, so stay tuned. Bye!
This is what I do when one of my birds of paradise leaves doesn't unfurl all the way up and kind of splits. I take my spray bottle and spritz the part that hasn't unfurled correctly, and this moistens everything up, loosens it up, and you can see that it already starts to unfurl. I keep spritzing it and then I leave it and let it kind of unfurl, and you can see it slowly start to open up. Just like that. Once it's loosened up, it'll unfurl completely on its own, but you can see what it looks like here.
Yo, today's plant that you didn't know you needed is a silver philodendron, otherwise known as a satin pothos. This plant is perfect for anybody trying to quiet down that neighbor's dog, or maybe that inheritance money from your great Aunt Ruth isn't coming soon enough. The satin pothos can be easily grown with well-draining soil and also boils down to an extract at 210 degrees. Having property line issues with the neighbor? A fellow coworker parked in your spot? Annoying kids? The satin pothos is the plant that you never knew you needed. Until now.
This philodendron had been in rapid decline, so today I'm going in to investigate. I have a feeling the issue may be that the pot is too big, but we'll see when I fully remove all the dirt from the roots. It seemed like the dirt right around the root ball hadn't been absorbing any water, so I'm going to soak the root ball for a few minutes to get it fully hydrated. Next, I'm going in and removing any dying or dead leaves so that the plant can focus on new growth. And this is my favorite part, getting all the dust and dirt off the tops and bottom of the leaves and loosening up the root ball with some water. Now that I can see the root ball, I do think the pot was too big, so I'm going to downsize it. I'll be using a mixture of local compost, orchid bark, perlite, sand, charcoal, and a slow-release fertilizer. I always add systemic insect control because I've had enough, period. After mixing up the dirt, it's time to put this plant in its new home. This pot may seem a little tight, but philodendrons do prefer to be a little root-bound, so I'm hoping this will help it recover. One more bath, and now we hope for the best. Bye!
Lucky Bamboo Care. These plants are great for beginners. If you're growing it in water, all you have to do is stick it in a jar, make sure that the roots are always covered. Lucky Bamboo likes indirect sunlight. These are kept in a northern window. Just change the water out about twice a month to avoid algae. The most unfortunate part about these is they are toxic to cats and dogs.
I own over 150 houseplants, and there's none easier than the ZZ plant. My personal favorite is the ZZ Raven with these black leaves. They have tubers that store water, so only water once the soil is completely dry. They can handle low light, but do great right next to a window. You can propagate by division or stem cuttings. My snake plant's floppy and has a bunch of dead leaves, and that's because it's not getting enough light. During the winter, the sun's not as strong, and it's out for less hours during the day. To rehab it, I'm just going to check the roots real quick. If there's anything rotting, I'm just going to pull it away. Overall, the roots look pretty good, so the solution to this is just give the plant more light. Remember, happy plants can see the sky.
Plastic or terracotta, things to consider. This pothos plant is in terracotta. Clay is porous, promoting airflow, which is perfect for a plant like this that doesn't like soggy roots. This prayer plant loves moisture, which is in a plastic pot that retains moisture. Helps me to keep pace with watering. Let there be grow lights! These are white LED grow lights that came with all the things I needed for easy setup, including the cool remote. 4 different light settings, 25%, 50%, 75%, and 100%. White LED is broad spectrum. Some would argue that red and blue give you more efficiency. May be true, but super growth is not my end goal here. I want to see and enjoy my plants. Light meter showing we get 50 to 200 foot candles, which is great additive effect during daylight.
Here's how to remove pups from your succulent plants. Obviously depot the plant. This one was very root bound, and then shimmy the dirt around so it's looser and pull off each individual little baby. Then you're just gonna go ahead and pot all of these up, and I ended up with 50.
Here's what you need to know about the Pilea money tree. First things first, they are going to need bright light, so stick your phone right down next to the leaves here and make sure they can see a wide view of the sky. They don't need to be right up in the window, but bright light nonetheless. Next up, we're going to learn how to water these bad boys. I like to use a little probe. In the summer months, when it's warm out, you can let them dry out about 25% between watering. This one is not quite ready to go yet, you can see here. And then in the winter months, you can let them dry out 50% between watering. Remember, these trunks here, they are full of water, so they are somewhat drought tolerant. So if you're not sure if it's ready to be watered, it's better to wait than it is to water too frequently. Fun fact about these, they are supposed to bring you good fortune. I also like to remind people to aerate your roots often. Next up, let's talk about the soil. When it's ready to repot, I like to use a 50% mixture of cactus soil with 50% houseplant soil.